Thanks everyone for joining. As we all know, the current economic climate has made it even harder to secure sign-off for additional investment. We see pressures to cut costs, maximize efficiencies, and more steps added to the approval process. Today, we're going to spotlight how to build an effective business case that holds up to that scrutiny and hear from Corina, HR Director at APC Overnight, to understand how she effectively secured sign-off with her executive team. So today we'll cover how to map a dollar impact to training, what makes a good business case, and then we'll end with a fireside chat with Corina. We'll also be sending a recap of our webinar afterwards for anyone that wishes to take a look through our slides and also reuse any of the information. So let's meet all our speakers, and I'll hand first to Corina.
Hi everybody, it's lovely to be here on the webinar. I'm Corina Forman and the HR Director at APC Overnight. We are the UK's largest independent parcel network.
Hi everyone, I'm James. I look after the mid-market sector at eduMe and I help clients like Corina and her team to achieve their L&D goals.
And finally, I'm Faith. I'm an enterprise account manager at eduMe. My focus is to ensure that all of our clients see value and ultimately return from their investment. And I work to co-create effective business cases with our clients. So we're keen to know, what challenges have you faced when building a business case for L&D investment? Perhaps you've never had to create a business case before, and now's the first time. Please answer our quick poll, which should be popping up with a variety of different answers. And here are some of the common challenges that we see from our buyers. The first and the most common is difficulty proving dollar value, challenges gaining buy-in from the right teams, de-risking change, measuring impact, as well as showing training to be high priority compared to other investments the business could make. And we'll be covering how best to answer all of these different common challenges, starting with how to prove a dollar impact. So here's the dollar impact framework that we've created together with our customers. Step one is to identify the biggest problem that training would be solving for your business. This positions the investment that you're asking for as a solution rather than another cost. Step two, once you've isolated the problem, what business metrics are impacted? The easiest way to map business metrics is to look at what metrics you already measure as a company and how do they ladder up to your departmental or maybe company level OKRs. And then steps 3 and 4. They look to understand the cost implications and then assign a specific dollar amount. Take, for example, an increase in customer satisfaction. The cost benefit could be more repeat customers, a higher spend per customer, and also more loyal customers. From this, you can attach a cost implication, increasing lifetime customer value, and from there, look at a specific dollar figure that your training has generated. Now we've looked at how to map dollar impact, let's consider 2 types of cost calculations which will form a crucial part of your business case: return on investment, or ROI, and cost of inaction, COI. Both are a calculation of the monetary value of an investment compared to its cost, but they have quite different strategic focuses. The strategic focus of ROI is to maximize revenue, whilst the strategic focus of COI, cost of inaction, is to minimize operating costs. And you can see that laid out in this chart. It's important to consider that COI, cost of inaction, often carries more weight, especially in the current economic environment, because it takes away an existing cost. In essence, it's the opportunity cost of doing nothing instead of doing something. And as such, it provides a higher guarantee of return than return on investment. And we often create bespoke return on investment and COI calculators with our clients So please do reach out to a member of our team, and we can help you build your own calculator for your business case. So let's see how this works in practice. This is an example from an eduMe customer. For those that don't know, eduMe is a SaaS workforce training platform that helps companies with deskless workforces get to market faster and more predictably. And one of our main use cases is worker onboarding. So on the left, you can see the problem statement, which we heard from one of our on-demand customers. It says, "We currently use face-to-face training to help onboard workers, which can be slow. Often, there are delays, which mean workers drop off before being onboarded." Together with the customer, we broke down this statement into the different problems being solved and considered how we could map these to their existing business metrics. So problem 1, workers dropping off before being onboarded. We mapped this to the downstream impact of increasing their onboarding activation rate. Problem 2, a slow time to onboard, which meant it took workers longer to move through the funnel and complete the onboarding process, which we mapped to time through the funnel. And problem 3. This is a problem by implication of solving the first 2 problems. If we can increase the number of workers onboarded, we can thereby increase the total number of active workers, leading to a boost in overall productivity. Now, looking at the third column, cost implications, you can see that we've listed 3 different cost implications. 2 are a measure of COI, cost of inaction, and 1 looks at ROI. So please spend a couple of seconds writing which you think is which in the chat, and then I will reveal the answers. So let's see the answers. So the first and the last are COI, they save money, and the middle one, increased revenue, is ROI, because it looks to make the company money. So here are 3 examples of cost savings achieved through eduMe. APC Overnight, whom we'll hear from later, saved an estimated £100,000 per month from using eduMe. And then we also have Delivery Hero and Young Ones, who achieved an impressive 506% and 191% cost benefit from switching to eduMe. A considerable portion of this cost saving for both companies came from cost of inaction, from removing the cost of in-person training, as well as return on investment, or ROI, increasing productivity by increasing the number of active vendors and also boosting onboarding verification rates. If you'd like more information on how they achieved impact, please follow the links afterwards and you can read our full case studies. So turning now to the all-important question of what makes a powerful business case. First of all, there's no one right way to create a business case. So before you start, it's useful to consider what's worked well before when creating a business case in your organization. Does your CFO or executive team have a preferred format, for instance? You may also have to tweak the business case over time as you gain buy-in from all relevant parties. And as such, great business cases are working documents, but they generally all have these 3 components. The first is a problem statement. This ties the business case to the problems faced by senior executives in your organization. This can be in the format of the current situation. We are trying to solve X problem, and yet there's a challenge, and yet Y is true. It's crucial to state the wider implications of your problem from a strategic C-suite perspective. Take, for example, the business case for an investment that trains store workers about how to improve their customer service. Improving customer service can help differentiate your business from your competition, leading to more loyal customers and higher customer satisfaction, which in turn helps solidify and also grow market share, and that's the C-suite priority. Once we've shown why this problem is a C-suite problem, it's important to mention what you've already tried as a business to solve this problem, i.e., why do you need something different and why do you need that now? And then it's important to focus on the solution. That is your investment, its value and dollar impact. And here's where to include your ROI and COI estimates. In a business case, it's best to present a range of scenarios. And I recommend at least the best and worst case, as well as the timeframe you can expect value to be delivered in. For example, do we expect to see a return in 3, 6, or 12 months from now? And then finally, risk mitigation, de-risking the investment. How can we reduce the friction of implementing a new solution? This shows that you've truly considered the non-monetary implications of your investment, what resources, dependencies, and time are required to make your investment deliver for your organization. Why not also include case studies or speak to an industry peer that's already solved your problem before using the solution that you're recommending? And finally, we also suggest using A/B testing to gain proof points, which can be especially useful if your investment is new and you're asking for a large and initial purchase.
Thanks so much, Faith. So yeah, I'd like to move on to our fireside chat now with Corina. And Corina's going to explain a bit more about the history with eduMe, and also really how she delivers that dollar impact amongst her HR team. And she's got some metrics to share with us as well. So just before I start with the questions, Corina, I'm just going to reveal the results of the poll we just had. So in terms of the difficulties and challenges of creating a business case, the highest scoring factors here were struggling to prove value, and also how to measure in terms of presenting that business case. So Corina will definitely give us some illustrations as to how she managed to do this for APC Overnight. In terms of your specific business cases for your own businesses, your account manager will be able to help you with that in terms of coming up with those objectives and success metrics, and really how to measure those results. But yeah, I'll kick off now with Corina, if that's all right, Corina, and just start to ask you a few questions about this topic in particular. So Faith mentioned during the presentation around the 2-point increase in productivity that APC Overnight enjoyed having gone on to eduMe. Would you be able to speak a little bit more about that and how it was calculated?
Thanks, James. Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Obviously, we went live with eduMe in June 2021. And I think it's worth emphasising that in our initial project proposal, we were really looking for eduMe to be almost kind of self-funding through reductions in our in-person, in-house training costs. So I think we called that the cost of inaction in Faith's earlier presentation. And we weren't particularly looking for changes in other business KPIs. Towards the end of 2022, however, we were seeing 3 trends. So firstly, reduced health and safety accidents and incidents, improved employee retention up from 75% to 79%, and that's sort of retention of colleagues with more than 1 year's service. And this 2-point improvement in productivity. Now, obviously, establishing cause and effect is always challenging in a very, very dynamic environment because you've got so many different variables at play. But these were all really, really great improvements for us to see in our business. So looking specifically at the 2-point improvement in productivity, it's probably worth me explaining that the main activity of our business is sorting of parcels. And we're a very, very labour-intensive operation, and accordingly, labour is one of our biggest costs. In addition to our employed colleagues, we utilise temporary agency labour resource so that we can kind of flex up and down on a daily basis. And I think it's probably fair to say that each night there's a balancing act to be achieved between different objectives. So first and foremost, in our business, everyone must go home safely at the end of the night. We don't accept any cutting corners to get the job done on time. But equally, we have to close out our operation on time. And this is so that our network of depots can fulfill its commitments to parcel delivery times. Simultaneously, we also have to take really, really good care of our customers' consignments, because let's face it, nobody wants a damaged parcel. And finally, we want to optimize productivity, because labour is one of our biggest costs, and so that we can effectively manage those operating costs. So a key measure of operational productivity for us is the calculation of how many parcels per person per hour are processed through our warehouse. And we call this the PPPH. And a whole different range of variables can impact on productivity. So if you can kind of imagine this very dynamic environment, and you've got people loading parcels onto belts and people loading parcels off belts and people looking for shrink wrap and people manoeuvring pump trucks, the more highly trained and skilled they are in all of those different little component parts that makes the whole operation work, the better the productivity, the better it all works together as a whole, and the smoother the whole operation is. And that's quite a challenge when you've got, hundreds of thousands of parcels and 500 to 800 people and all these different kind of moving parts. So again, we do have to be careful about assuming causation from our figures, but early in 2019, sort of early 2020, so pre-eduMe days, our average productivity was sitting at around about that 39 parcels per person per hour. And we were really kind of struggling to shift that, to improve that. Post-eduMe, back end of 2022, we were reporting average PPH of 41 parcels per person per hour. So it doesn't sound like a huge change, that those 2 points. And I think, obviously every organisation will have its own way of calculating productivity and also the gains of those productivity improvements. So I think it might be helpful if maybe I talked you through some illustrative figures so that you can get a feel for the impact of a 2-point improvement on productivity for an organisation operating, for example, in the parcel sector. So if you can imagine 100,000 parcels coming through a night and you've got PPH at 39, you're going to need to use 2,564 hours of labour per night to process that. If you can push that productivity up to 41, then your labour requirement drops to 2,439. It's a saving of 125 hours of labour tonight. Doesn't sound, world-changing. But then when you kind of multiply that by the fact that there are 252 operating nights a year, you're starting to look at 31,500 hours of saved labour there. And certainly then as parcel volumes go up, you start looking at 300,000 parcels and the impact of a 2-point improvement in productivity there. Then what we see is that we get a saving there of 94,500 hours of labour. Now, labour costs are going up all the time. We've all seen that with, the various sort of labour shortages that there are affecting different sectors. And so this is really quite significant for us.
Thanks so much, Corina. This is the golden ticket, really, isn't it? It's just relating everything back to that dollar impact, but certainly time saved, time is money. If we're able to help you with making those calculations, then that's what we're here for. Just going back to when you guys started with eduMe and the conversations that you were having with senior stakeholders around getting in a new L&D platform, perhaps you could elaborate a little in terms of how those conversations went. How did you pitch eduMe, and was it pretty much a similar conversation when it came to renewing our contract as well? And having those results that you could bring to the table?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, I think it's worth kind of saying that our business view is that effective training and communication is really key to our ability to be agile. And to be able to kind of very quickly embed those improvements and changes in working practices that are required to remain successful in a very competitive and ever-changing business environment. Before we implemented eduMe, most of our internal training was conducted in-house, in person. So in addition to the time and cost of trainers preparing and delivering the training, there was also a very direct business cost associated with taking people away from their desks, obviously if they were office-based, or away from the key processes of parcel sorting if they were, part of our kind of deskless workforce. And I think this created barriers to training to, first of all, the extent to which colleagues could access training, because of course everyone is always busy and managers experience a pinch point when you're taking people away from them for training and kind of communications activity. And this same pinch point also created barriers in terms of the scope and range of training that we were able to deliver. And so, of course, what happened is internal training delivery tended to have a compliance focus, i.e. it was the training that we kind of had to do because there was some legal implications of not doing it. And that's all well and good, but it doesn't necessarily, meet all of the other sort of training requirements that could really, really benefit the business. We realised that a digital solution could improve the reach and accessibility of training, particularly for our deskless colleagues. And we researched a number of different digital L&D solutions. And I think actually going through that process really sort of shaped our vision of what we needed. And it kind of helped us to identify 3 criteria. So the first was that our company culture is very important to us. It's seen as a key differentiator for our business versus others in our sector. And for this reason, we kind of landed in a place where we really wanted a digital solution that would enable us to very easily create our own learning and communications content and disseminate that seamlessly to a large deskless workforce. But the majority of our workforce are manual workers, and they also have very atypical working patterns. So it was really non-negotiable that solution had to be a very accessible and engaging learner experience. And finally, we were going through a pretty major HR informations upgrade at the time. And so we were seeking a solution that could be very easily implemented as a standalone system, but with the possibility to integrate in the future. eduMe ticked all the boxes in terms of what we were seeking. And when we compared the cost per head of implementing and subscribing to eduMe versus the cost per head of conducting really just the minimal level of, statutory compliance face-to-face training, what we found was that the investment in eduMe made really, really good sense. In essence, for the same average cost of just under 4 hours of face-to-face training per person, we can fund a year of eduMe for every colleague and provide unlimited quantity of training and communications content. So really, when it came to pitching our eduMe proposal to other senior colleagues for sign-off and approval, we set out the sort of vision of what we wanted. We identified our 3 key criteria. We presented a comparative analysis on how the different digital L&D solutions matched up to our criteria. And then we provided the data on our past in-person training costs versus the potential future training costs associated with the digital solution, which was eduMe. And really, we demonstrated that eduMe would be self-funding through training efficiencies.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Corina. I think it's so important just to have that clarity and to be able to present it to the senior stakeholders when these decisions are getting made with how you're investing your money. So was wondering if we could just finish off with any parting words of wisdom that you might have for anyone attending or watching back this webinar, just in terms of how best to present a case for L&D investment.
Yeah, so it's a really, really good question. I think first and foremost, and I think Faith touched on this earlier in the presentation, definitely establish a cross-functional stakeholder group from the onset. I think it really helps to have the engagement of other stakeholders right from the beginning, because it turns it into a business initiative, not just a HR initiative. And of course, later down the line, those colleagues that have had engagement right from the beginning, then have a greater level of enthusiasm in perhaps becoming content creators and pushing their own content through eduMe as well, which is tremendously helpful down the line. So for us, we had colleagues from the IT department, operations, health and safety, HR, all involved really from the very early stages of exploring digital solutions. Secondly, as I've already touched on, I think be really clear about your business needs. And the key criteria that you need an L&D solution to deliver on. I think that's really important, that you know what you want to achieve from it. Definitely conduct a comparative analysis of different solutions, kind of looking at the pros and cons of each and the extent to which they meet your key criteria. Having gone through the process already, I would also really counsel anyone to think very carefully about the future. And I guess this wasn't really on my radar at the time when we were going through this process, but I think it's turned out to be really salient for us. I would say that I think with some digital solutions, there's already been this kind of big upfront investment in developing the product. And so for the supplier, the next step is really to just realize the value of that investment by selling the product to as many subscribers as possible. They're not necessarily looking to continually reinvest and develop the product offering that they have. So kind of what you buy is what you get, and you're stuck with it. And I think it's actually really important, because actually as you embark on your digital learning journey, your own organisation evolves and different needs come to the fore. So working with a partner that is continually striving to improve their product and service offering just becomes incredibly valuable. And finally, I think analyse your current investment in L&D activity and just consider how some of those funds could be utilised to support a digital solution, which might improve the access to training for deskless colleagues, and also give you the ability to significantly increase the quantity and range of learning content that you can disseminate.
That's absolutely brilliant, super useful. Thanks, Corina. Really appreciate you sharing your story with us.
No problem. Thank you.